going to be taking
Is that
information.
Sahil?
Yep.
Can you hear us?
Yes,
Okay.
I can.
Okay. If you switch to presenter mode, you're ready to take us away. Yep. So without further ado, this is, I'm going to let Sahil introduce himself because I probably mess up his last name really, really badly. But he is from the New Zealand area, right?
Yep. So he's presenting 18 hours ahead of us.
Yeah. So this hasn't been released yet. So you can't say anything about it for 18 hours, okay? Because you're getting an 18-hour prelude into what's coming up tomorrow.
Yeah.
I couldn't get him to give me a lot of numbers either, so don't ask.
Okay.
But without further ado, Sahil, go ahead and you can begin.
Yep. Thank you, everyone. And can you see my screen now?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Okay, so let's start. So again, hi everyone, and welcome to Tompa Dev Azure meeting. This session is about, as you know, Azure Data Lake, Azure Analysis Services, and Power BI, and how they relate. First of all, let me introduce myself. I'm Sohail Bakhshi, BI and Analytics Consultant at Datacom New Zealand, and I'm Microsoft MCP, MCSE, MCSA, MCITP, and also a speaker in Azure Data Platform and Power BI. As I said, I'm based in Aotearoa. Aotearoa is the Maori name of New Zealand, which is one of the most beautiful countries in the world, and Maoris are native nations in New Zealand, so they have their own language. So Aotearoa is Maori name of New Zealand. And you can find some more information about me on my LinkedIn profile or on my website. It is biinsight.com. Well, I'm working for Datacom, and Datacom is a big company in scale of New Zealand, and over 5,000 people are working at Datacom globally, and with revenues over $1.1 billion. Datacom is one of Australasia's largest IT services companies. At Datacom, we do software development, IT management, consulting, providing digital solutions, and also we do analytics and business intelligence. At Datacom, we have really awesome teamwork culture, and my today's session couldn't be happened without my colleagues' helps. Well, in this session, I introduce Azure Data Lake, Azure Data Lake Store, Azure Data Factory, Azure Analysis Services, and Power BI, and how they relate. Usually, we ask audience in this point that how many of you are familiar with session topics and how many of you are actively working on a project involving the technologies that we are discussing in this session. But as you know, I'm presenting remotely, so I go straight to the introduction section. Microsoft made a major announcement at Worldwide Partner Conference in Florida in 2015. It was about launching Cortana Analytics Suite, which is aimed at enterprises who need a one-stop big data and analytics service. Through Cortana Enterprise, enterprises will be able to access a comprehensive platform that will help them make intelligent business decisions. Cortana Intelligence Suite, as you may know, contains of 4 main areas, which is information management, big data stores, machine learning and analytics, and dashboards and data visualization. Let's start with some basic concepts first. So this question might jump to your head several times, that what really big data is. Well, big data is a term for extremely large data sets that may be analyzed computationally to reveal patterns, trends, and associations, especially related to human behavior and interactions. The typical aspect of big data is not about data itself. It is the ability to discover useful information hidden in data. So it is really all about analytics that a big data solution can empower. And now that I just discussed a very, very brief introduction of big data, let's go a step further and see what data lake is. Well, data lake is not a thing. It is a name, it is a concept which describes several services. It's an umbrella on top of Data Lake Analytics, Data Lake Store, and HD Insight. Data Lake Analytics is a query service or a job service which you pay for number of analytics units that you use. It is easy to develop and run massively parallel data transformation and processing programs in USQL, R, Python, and .NET over petabytes of data. It is easy to debug and optimize your big data programs. It provides analytics virtualization and enterprise-grade support and security. Data Lake Store, on the other hand, is a big data storage with no limits at all for analytics. So again, we are talking about big data, so we expect to analyze that data. So you can store petabyte size files and trillions of objects in a Azure Data Lake Store. It provides scalable throughput for massively parallel analytics. And it supports Hadoop data file system, HDFS, and for the cloud, which is web HDFS, and always encrypted. Role-based security and auditing is available. Enterprise-grade support like monitoring, auditing, compliance, role-based access control, transparent server-side encryption, and so forth. And it is optimized for analytics workload. So yes, you can store videos and images in Azure Data Lake Store, but there is no benefits on it if you are not going to process that data for analytics. And HD Insight is a cluster service for computation. We have two different layers in Data Lake in general, and it is a compute layer, which includes Data Lake Analytics and HD Insight, and data layer, which includes the Data Lake Store. The generic scenario for Data Lake is when you move your data from an on-premises to cloud and make it ready for analytics in Azure Data Lake Store. The data then may move to Azure SQL database or Azure SQL Data Warehouse, but as this scenario moves forward, we expect you'll do less data movements out to Azure Azure SQL Data Warehouse and Azure SQL Database. The reason is very simple. You want to do analytics on top of petabytes of data, and it will take a long time to copy that data to Azure SQL Database or Azure SQL DW. On the other hand, in Azure SQL Database and Azure SQL Data Warehouse, you can use Polybase to query the data that sits in the Data Lake Store. So it's better to keep that data in a single place. and you can use built-in analytics features like machine learning to interact with that data. Well, we won't look at these parts of the scenario in this session today, but we will cover those parts. Let me talk very briefly about Azure Data Factory, which is a data processing and a globally deployed data movement service in the cloud offering from Microsoft. Azure Data Factory is a hybrid data integration service that allows you to create, schedule, and control your ETL or ELT workflows at a scale where your data lives, on premises or in the cloud. And you can use Azure Data Factory to ingest data from multiple on-premises and cloud data sources. Control your data movement and integration flows wherever your data lives. You can accelerate your data integration and with multiple data connections. You can also prepare and partition your data as you ingest it or apply pre-processing steps. You can also schedule and manage your data transformation and analysis processes. You can choose from a wide range of processing services and put them into managed data pipelines to use the best tool for the job. For example, you can add a data lake analytics step for handling your semi-structured data, or adding a stored procedure invocation step for structured data, adding a machine learning step for advanced analytics, or insert your own custom codes as a processing step in any pipelines. And then you can use data pipelines to transform raw data into shaped data that's ready for consumption by BI tools and applications. And you can get your valuable data where it needs to go for consumption by your on-premises or in the cloud applications and services. SQL Server Analysis Services tabular models enables you to create a semantic model on top of your data. SSAS tabular technology has been around for a long time now, and Azure Analysis Services is the cloud version of the existing technology, providing the same capabilities for cloud and hybrid solutions. But let's talk a little bit about a semantic model. What is a semantic model? It's a way to connect to multiple data sources and combine them in a single view that provides business users an easier way to get insight from that data to connect to data without needing to connect to the data sources itself. I mean the source data. So you can load data from lots of different data sources and create a collection of queries and data connections using Power Query Engine. SQL Server Analysis Services is used to host on-premises semantic models. Azure Analysis Services, on the other hand, is cloud offering of the same technology. With Azure Analysis Services, you can quickly set up a server in the cloud without worrying about managing infrastructure. Plus, you can scale up and down the model to handle requests on demand. Then you can make your fabulous, fantastic data visualizations on top of Azure Analysis Services in Power BI. And there is a direct link from Power BI to Azure Analysis Services. And Power BI is a fantastic data visualization offering from Microsoft, available as a desktop application as well as the cloud. I love Power BI. I'm working with Power BI on a day-to-day basis, and I'm in love with it. And a very good point is that Power BI desktop releases every month, a new version every month, and Power BI service updates every week, which is fantastic. Power BI Desktop is a report authoring tool for desktop application. You can create very professional reports that can be easily published to Power BI service. So Power BI service is the cloud service of Power BI, which is an online software as a service offering from Microsoft. It displays, you can create and display dashboards that are interactive and can be created and updated from many different data sources. The reports and dashboards from Power BI service can be consumed almost anywhere. And on your web browser, you can consume it on your mobile phone using installing Power BI app, which is available for Android and iOS, and I think it is released for Windows phones as well. Let's go through the demo, but before we go for the demo, let's have a look at the flow of the demo first. So in this demo, I will use two methods to load data from AdventureWorks DW database from an on-premises instance of SQL Server, and then I will load it to Azure Data Lake using those two methods, which are Azure Data Factory and SQL Server Integration Services. The data will be stored as CSV files in Azure Data Lake Store. Then we'll load that data into Azure Analysis Services to create our semantic model, and then we can create some visualizations on top of Azure Analysis Services with Power BI. So let's go to my...
Sahil,
Yes.
let's take a break here before we jump into the demo. Does anybody have any questions?
So I have a question in regards to Power BI, because I'm using Power BI for reporting for Dynamics 365. And what I'm finding is that it's great at visualizations and rolling up dashboards, etc., but it's not really good when the data is not flat. So dealing with multiple row data, that kind of stuff. Any recommendations on, besides flattening the data? Have you run into that, or what's your thoughts there?
Well, what we normally do is, if you don't want to use the out-of-the-box Office 365 reports available in Power BI service, if you don't want to use that, then the best option is to build some sort of dimensional modeling inside or outside of Power BI. When you're talking about Microsoft CRM, you probably are talking about a great amount of data. So the best solution in my mind is creating a proper designed data warehouse on top of the database, and then you can load that data into Azure Analysis Services, and then you can connect from Power BI, because Power BI, as you may know, has a size limitation. If you are on, even if you are on Pro account, if you are lucky enough to have a premium capacity, then it's a different story.
Sure. Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
I have another question.
You got another question?
So I am working for Coca-Cola, and I am trying to create a predictive model using Azure machine learning to predict the order of an account manager that goes to a store and tries to order Coca-Cola products. So to do this, I use Azure Machine Learning, and I'm looking at the previous history of orders of a store and trying to predict this. What do you think is the data flow, and how would you integrate Azure Machine Learning in these data lakes and analytics services?
Well, I'm not a Azure Machine Learning guy, so sorry, I cannot answer your question. I'm not doing any sort of machine learning. Yep.
But how do you integrate? I'm not asking about this part of Azure Machine Learning, but how do you integrate? How do you collect the data from the past year for each store and to be streamed and then get back the results to the account manager during that day?
This is where's the source data?
They are moving towards Azure. It is.
So there's a system that they have customers that their sales
yes,
in.
There is an SAP and SQL Server.
So basically, you would have an SAP integration with an Azure Data Lake, for example, where you would then replicate data up into Azure. Once it's in Azure, then you can take a part of these scenarios. There are tools like Scribe, for instance, that can take SAP and move the data right into Azure. But you can also do it with like SSIS and a wrapper. The problem really is how relational the SAP data is, SAP, and how you pull it in. But there's obviously hundreds of tools to do that. Cheap, some free, some expensive, but that will allow you to get the data across. For Dynamics, they actually have a data export service that I can connect right to CRM and export my data right into Azure, and then I can feed him the data right from there. So you're already doing analysis on the data. So someone's already taken that data from your SAP system and put it in Azure, because the Azure machine language can't read it from your database. So there's already data up there. So you would just have to build a link from that data to a new SQL data lake to do some of the things he's talking about. Are you talking about for Power BI reporting off of that?
Not really. I would like to have a direct connection towards loaded what happened in the last month,
right? And
use Azure Machine Learning, the API there, to do a live prediction for somebody that goes to a store.
Yeah. You might also want to look at customer insights and relationship insights. We can talk offline.
Yeah,
it's a different kind of topic.
Let's offline that one. Anybody else have any other questions? Okay, we got one more.
I haven't used Azure.
Can you talk up a little louder because he's on speaker?
I haven't used Azure at all, so I know a lot of the cloud platforms are for like unstructured or semi-structured data.
Right.
If I was looking at moving from like a data warehouse or a transactional systems in SQL Server to Azure, is there any purpose for the structured data to live in Azure, or is it just?
So Sanjay is not here. That's who we need. But Sanjay it talks a lot about the different types of data services. When you are right, when you store data in Azure, there's different ways to store it. You've been hearing about the different database models that they have. Cosmos is another example. How you can store the data there. It really depends on the end solution that you're trying to do. If you're rolling up data, if you're reporting on data, it's not necessarily a replacement of the core database, right? It can be, and we run SQL Server in the cloud, right? I can run Azure SQL Server there all day long and run my CRM system off of that if I wanted to. So it's not that I can't do that. It's just that there's some other tools that are more efficient, especially like this, that can process data way faster than we can.
Well, you're usually talking from a data platform perspective. When you're looking at data warehousing and large amounts of data, it really comes down to cost. When you look at doing that, you're moving up, you're looking at cost DTUs, you're looking at how big you need to get access to that, and then all the things that layer on top of it, like data lake and anything else that would go on top of that to build out anything that you'd want to. So it's kind of a dual-edged sword. Most companies are opting for hybrid models to expand their data warehouses to the cloud, simply because you have cap costs on servers that are currently on your network, right? So and that you haven't capitalized on yet. So you're not just going to wholesale move from this over to here when you've got $5 million for the hardware you just bought, and you're not going to go spend $5 million a year or $1 million a year in the cloud to run all of that data, depending on how much data is there. So really the way I always look at it from the perspective of Azure and the move is, what you're accustomed to from a budgeting perspective, looking how to cost out the stuff you already have, maybe not buying new servers, maybe, expanding it to the cloud and that sort of thing. And then taking that slow move to the cloud before you take the bigger move. Yes, sir.
So this data lake it looks like it's Hadoop framework adapted for Microsoft Azure. Right?
I believe it has a lot of similarities. I do believe from the cloud platforms. All right, Sahil.
Yep.
You can go with the demo. I think that's our last question.
Yeah.
I just wanted to slow you down because you're not here and there are people looking. So I'm like, let's ask questions.
Okay.
And more questions. Greg and more than welcome to answer them after the presentation.
Yep.
If you guys want to stay around and talk with them, we can still continue the discussion.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's also a reason why we also want to help each other, right? So if you got an idea or a concept or something you're trying to do, it's not necessarily in the presentation, we're here to all talk about it.
Yeah. All right, Sahil, you're good.
Okay, all good. Well, as I said, I will move some data from popular AdventureWorks sample database from Microsoft, which is on my on-premises machine. And to do that, I will go through to show you how you can load data from on-premises to the cloud and to the data lake using Azure ADF. So I created all the services prior to the session because I didn't want to take any times for installing all of those services. So what we need here is for sure Azure Data Lake Store and Azure Data Lake Store and an Azure Data Factory instance and a Azure Analysis Services instance, and you can easily find it. So first of all, you have to log into portal.azure.com using your email address, and then you can find all the services here, and you can just simply search for it. You can search Data Lake, and it will show up Data Lake Store. So then you can create a new instance of Data Lake Store, and it is the same for Azure Data Factory and Azure Analysis Services. So I start with Azure Data Factory. So after you build your Azure Data Factory, you will land into a first screen like this. And in your blade, I'm going to tell just the simplest way to get data, which is copy data, which is on preview, but it works perfectly. I use it quite a lot. So after clicking on the copy data, then we need to create a task name and write some descriptions. I would rather run it just once, and I'll click next. And in the data sources, you can scroll down and you'll find SQL Server, and I'll click next. And here you'll need to type in a connection name and an integration runtime gateway, which is a gateway. It is an intermediary tool between your on-premises and the cloud. It is very similar to on-premises data gateway, which is used for data for Microsoft Flow and Power BI. And but I installed this again previously because I didn't want to take the session's time, because I'm trying to cover end-to-end data movement and data visualization and Azure Analysis Services in the middle. So this is the gateway. which is up and running now, and it detects the gateway here in the list, so you can find it here if you already installed it on your machine, or you can create a new integration runtime gateway. And what I need here is my server name, which I can, it is my on-premises server name, SQL 17, and the database name, which is AWDW AdventureWorks AWDW 16. And I'll stick to web browser and SQL authentication. I use SA and I click next.
Do what?
The screen.
Sorry, what's that?
Oh, we thought the screen froze. Did it just update again?
Yeah.
There it goes.
Okay, we're back.
Okay. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just want to move just dim date, or you can go and write some T-SQL here if you want to just load some data in combination of joining to some tables, 2 tables, 3 tables, or whatever. You can do it here, or you can use existing tables. And I want to move just dim date, my date dimension, and then I click next. And then the destination would be Azure Data Lake Store. And click next. And I have to select my Azure subscription. I have 2 different Azure subscriptions. So, and what else? Data Lake Store account name, which is already detected, and authentication type. I use OAuth for the authentication type, and then click next. And it went through because I'm under the same network and same account. And I can select the folder that I created in Azure Data Lake previously for our session today. And I don't want any compression, and text file can be Avro format, JSON, ORC, or text. It would be text, and I want the header, column headers, and if you click on advanced settings, it has a \n default for null values. I don't want that either. Then I click next, and then it says if for error handling, if something goes wrong here, you have 3 options of abort and copy activity, or abort copy activity, or skip all incompleted rows, and copy is successful, and skip. This is very pretty much like what you see in SSIS packages when you build a package. Then I click next, and at the last page you need to authorize Data Lake authentication. It opens the authorization, so I need to enter my credentials here. Okay, so we authorized the pipeline, and then I click next, and it starts copying data, and it is runtime. So while it is doing that part, copying data, I want to show you how we can work the same in SSIS package. So I'll open SQL Server Data Tools, and you have to open. Can you see my screen?
we gotta hold. I think you're freezing a bit. There it goes.
Okay.
Drill down.
Maybe I'll click a little bit slower. Is it good now? Okay.
Still frozen.
It's still frozen.
Ah. Oh my gosh.
Feedback?
It's construction. Still frozen.
Maybe I move some windows to wake it up. Wake up, machine.
There it goes. There we go.
Okay.
And we're
Still a little frozen though. Because the clock is off. It's about 5 minutes behind.
do what?
I think the clock is about 2 minutes behind. Yeah, it's
Back.
Is it back now?
Yeah, John doesn't like the fact that your clock's at 10 minutes behind. But we'll continue on.
Well, yeah. Well, I'm in your future. Actually, it is 1st of February in New Zealand, and we are enjoying a very hot summer here, and it is not as cold as it is up there in the US and Canada. Yeah.
Well, we're all in Florida, so we're right there with. most of us are short and t-shirts.
Okay. Okay, that's brilliant. I have to visit Florida someday. Well, yeah. Okay, so can you see I'm trying to create a new project. Can you see it on the screen?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so from business intelligence section, I use integration services to create an SSIS package, and I call it maybe TompoDev test. You must install Azure SDK on your Visual Studio, otherwise you cannot do it through an SSIS package. So to do that, we can go to Tools and then Extensions and Update, and then you have to install Azure SDK.
Isn't that's also part of workload in 2017, right?
Yes, yeah. I'm using 2015 now, but yeah, you're right. So to do that, I can add just a data flow, easy peasy. And what my source is in OLADB connection source. Now I have to create a new connection manager that I already have it here. And for the tables, I can create date table and click OK. And then here on the Azure section, you can see Azure Data Lake Store destination. I connect those two components together and I'll click Add New. And ADLS host, we need to take that ADLS host from Azure Portal, which is in my other page. So it is in here. And there you go. The other pipeline already copied dim date. So Azure Data Lake Store, I have to go through my Data Lake Store and get the URL. And then I can put it on my Visual Studio account. Username must be a domain username, so it is just like your email address. And then you can test connection, must work. Yeah. And then click OK. And the path. As I mentioned previously, I already created a folder in Azure Data Lake Store. So this is Azure Data Lake Store Blade in Azure Portal. Then you can see, as you can see, there is a Data Explorer button on top that you can click, and there you go. You can create new folder here, and you can upload files or something like that. But we want to move data from SQL Server to Azure Data Lake and create CSV files. So it must be Tampa div. And the file name, which is dimdate2.csv. And again, format can be selected from RAW, ARC, or text. I stick with text, and I need my column names and data mapping, just normal stuff in SSIS. As far as I run this on my machine, it will create a dimdate2 in Azure Data Lake Store. But I'm not going to do that because this instance of Visual Studio is on the firewall and it fails. So, but I've already added dimdate previously, and I loaded Fact Internet Sales CSV here in Azure Data Lake Store that you can see, and I can right-click on files to rename files and make it a little bit tidier, and CSV. So the next step is to create our semantic model in Analysis Services, Azure Analysis Services, loading data directly from Data Lake. So there is no Azure SQL DB or Azure SQL Data Warehouse in between. To do that, I need to create a Analysis Services project in SQL Server Data Tools. So again, new project, and this time I select Analysis Services and Analysis Services Tabular Model, and I call it again Tampa div AAS. And I would rather integrated workspace and Azure 2000s SQL Server 2017 Azure Data Services, Analysis Services. Okay. And in the model, I can now load data directly from my Data Lake Store. If you click on, and this is a new get data in, available in Analysis Services 2017, which is called Modern Get Data, something like that. So it is pretty much the same as how you get data in Power BI, but I want to inform you that Power Query script, M script, is not 100% the same. So if you do have a model in Power BI and you are willing to replicate the same thing in Azure Analysis Service or Analysis Services 2017, you have to be careful about that there are some mismatches in Power Query, which is out of the scope of today's session, but I just wanted to inform you. So I want to connect to Azure Data Lake Store. Again, it will ask me for the URL, and I can find the URL here in my ADLS. So that's the URL. And it asks me for sign in for sure. Oops, that's no good. Why is that? Please leave the credentials. What credentials? Okay, this is the first time that this is happening. For sure, I have internet on this machine. Google. Let me check. Well, I have internet. Come on. Maybe I'll use another, the other Visual Studio from other box. Just bear with me for a second. Okay, so I'll just save this and close it, and I just want to show you how to build it because I already have some models in my Azure Analysis Services that I can present. So I'm gonna just do it quickly. We are running out of time. So can you see my screen, by the way, or is it frozen on your side?
No, you're fine.
Okay. So again, I'm going to get data from Azure, Azure Data Lake, connect, and I would like connect to that URL. And now sign in. There you go. Yep. Let me move this to the other page and okay, there you go. I'm connected now. I can connect to my data lake store. And as you can see here, it is interesting that Power Query detects the folder as a table here. So we need to click OK. What we have now here, it is again pretty much the same as what we see in Query Editor in Power BI. But I want to navigate to the table and see, I can see two files that are binary detected as binary files for sure. And I'm gonna click on that binary file, which is my dim date. And I can right click on the table and rename it to date. What I can do here to prevent going through the process again, I can right click and say duplicate the same query. It goes through all of those steps, but I don't want those steps, so I just delete those steps. And as opposed to navigating to dim date, I navigate to my fact internet sales, right? So I'll get rid of that navigation. You can for sure do it from advanced query editor. So again, table and then fact internet sales. And as opposed to day 2, I call it internet sales. Internet sales, yep. And then I can click import. What it does is, again, the same thing as what we do in Power BI. It loads data inside the model. Yeah, I forgot to enable the second query. I can see. Sorry.
We have a question.
Yes.
I lost my mouse cursor. There it is. Hold on. Question pane. We have a question from. Oh, never mind. Not for you. For us. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. No, it's all right.
Things shouldn't be frozen.
Your voice is frozen. I didn't get what you say. Sorry. Can you repeat that again?
No, we're good. I think we're moving along. The question was the presentation frozen? And I don't see it being frozen.
Okay. Okay, there you go. We have our fact internet sales and date table, and then we switch to diagram mod, and we create a relationship between those two tables, which is between dim date and order date. And do not forget to mark your date table as a date dimension. Otherwise, you will not be able to use time intelligent functions in DAX. So I mark this as a date table, and it detected my full date alternate key, which is correct. And the next step is creating some DAX functions here in the table. In fact, internet sales. I'm not going to do that because of the time. I'm so conscious of time, and I have to jump to another meeting right after this. And I won't be able to publish this again because this instance is on the firewall, and the other instance unfortunately didn't work. But I can show you some predefined samples in my analysis services, Azure Analysis Services side in Azure portal. So I go to this is my analysis services blade, and as you can see, I can go and manage my models, and on the manage models there is a Tompa Dev backup that already exists here, but I can go through that Azure AWDW. So what we can do here, we can synchronize model, which is reloading data into the model, or we can just right click or click on ellipsis button on the right, and we can go to Web Designer, open the model in Web Designer, which is fantastic. I loved it at the first date that I found it in Azure Analysis Services. It is a modeler, a web designer on top of your analysis services data model. You can write DAX expressions, you can write DAX queries. It is fabulous. And you can open that model in Excel, or you can use it in Power BI, or if you are a developer, you can open it in Visual Studio and develop it.
Yeah,
So,
hang on
Yep.
1 second there. Does everybody know what DAX is? No? So basically DAX is very similar to SQL. It's the new language for things that are happening inside of Azure, Power BI, etc. So just like you guys use Google and Bing to find the SQL commands, you can also find the DAX command library and get familiar with that. But that's what DAX is, okay? DAX. There you go, sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
You can pick back up.
Yeah, thank you. Very, very good question there. My assumption was that everybody in the meeting is, familiar with DAX, so I didn't ask, which I had to. Yeah. So this is the web designer, and as you can see, I can see all of those relationships that are created, and I can see those columns that are grayed out are those columns that I marked to be hidden in the data visualization software like Excel or Power BI, so they don't show up in the front end. And this is dim date, and that's a relationship, and you can go through the tables, and it is really, really fabulous. And you can write DAX queries, DAX queries here, and it will show you the results. So you can also add some filters. It is really, really good way to work with Azure Analysis Services model. And as I said previously, you can just simply open it in Power BI Desktop. So it creates a PBIX file with all connections needed. And you'll be able to, okay, so this is a server. Oh, yeah, okay. Again, I'm going to all of those kinds of frustrations, but it's all right. I'm used to it, so. Yeah, well, okay, maybe.
That's a demo, gods.
yeah, absolutely, yeah. Well, and it is Morphy law, it is today's my session, so every single bad thing should happen today and not any other day. So maybe I just yeah.